Okay, we come to the second part of our introductory slideshow. It has to do mainly with class rules and some other things. So we'll just go ahead and go over those real quick. Number one, raise your hand. Okay, it's about being respectful of other people. It's about helping us keep our class moving smoothly and orderly and efficiently. Okay, so if you need to sharpen your pencil, just raise your hand. Okay, I may not see you at the beginning or at that very second, but just be patient and just raise your hand. If you need to get a tissue, need to blow your nose or something, raise your hand. Okay. If you need to get anything from your backpack, if you if your pen runs out of ink, or if your pencil just completely falls apart or something, you're out of lead for your pencil, raise your hand. If you need to go to the restroom, okay, raise your hand. If you need to be out of your seat for any reason during class, raise your hand. If you have a question that pertains to what we are studying that day, if we're having a class discussion, I'm going over some information, you're not quite sure where we're at, where you need to put this information in your journal, raise your hand. If you have an answer to a question that I have asked the class during a class discussion, if I've asked if anybody knows the answer to any particular question, raise your hand. Don't blurt out the answer. Be respectful, because there may be somebody else nearby that knows that answer and and is raising their hand. And then if you just blurt out the answer, then that doesn't set a good vibe for the class. Okay, it's just a little bit rude and disrespectful to your classmates. Okay, and so these things will make your teacher, myself, very happy. You see the teacher up here at the front of the class, the photo that just came up, he looks real happy. Why? Because all of his kids got their hands raised. He's asked a question, they all know the answer, and they raised their hand and waited for him to call on them. And that makes the teacher very happy. The second one is stay seated. Okay, once you come into class and we start class, for us to be able to get the things done that we need to get done that day, we've got to be efficient. We've got to move quickly. We've got to move smoothly. We can't have people up wandering around the room. Okay? Once the party bell rings, you are expected to be in your seat working on the warm-up. Okay? People walking around the room is an unwelcome distraction and is rude to your classmates. Okay? If people are trying to pay attention, they're trying to see the board, and you got people up wandering around, walking over to the other side of the room, messing with one of their friends or whatnot, it's rude and disrespectful. And that's not what we're going to do here in class. If for any reason you need to be out of your seat, such as sharpening a pencil, what do? Raise your hand, okay? Ask permission, okay? That's what we need to do. That's how we need to keep our class moving in an orderly and efficient fashion. No eating or drinking in class. That one is, I would have thought that I think everybody kind of knows that by now, but it goes without saying that we're going to cover it. There is one exception to this rule. You may have a sealed, clear water bottle at your desk. Okay, it has to have a cap on it, and it has to be sealed. Okay. Phones. No phones are allowed in class. Okay, personal phones are to be turned off and in your bags while in class. It doesn't matter if it's turned off and it's in the little pocket on your hoodie. That's not going to work. If it's turned off and sitting in your back pocket, it's not going to work. If it's on silent and in the little pocket on your hoodie, it's not going to cut it. It needs to be in your bag. If your moms or your pops needs to get a hold of you, just like a time-honored tradition, they can always call the front office and have a message sent. There is no reason for you to be on your phone texting your mom or your dad in the middle of class, okay? If you have your phone out, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, who you're texting. I'm going to ask for the phone because it's not supposed to be out. If our lesson calls for independent research or a round of Kahoots or something like that, then phones will be allowed. And if that's the case, I will tell you specifically at the beginning of class that day, or perhaps the day before if you want to remember to bring it. Okay? But unless you get the okay from me, they are not to be out. At any other time, if phones are out, they will be taken up. Okay? That's the rule. That's what you need to follow and respect. It doesn't matter why it's out. It doesn't matter if it just fell out and you weren't even on it. It will be taken up. And so if your phone is requested, if I ask you for the phone because you were caught with it out, please do yourself a huge favor and comply with the request. Okay? Not complying with the request or refusing, it goes down, it starts going down a different road, and it's just a road that we don't really want to mess with. It's I don't want to mess with it, and you don't want to mess with it. And so just to keep things in a positive sense, just just comply with the request. Okay? It will do yourself a huge favor. Okay, in the end. One last thing. Every assignment or paper that you turn into me is to be graded or otherwise. It will have a proper heading or it will not receive a grade. Okay? If you're used to turning in papers with your first name only, it's not going to cut it. I'm not going to accept it. If you have your first name and a date, that's not going to cut it. Okay? You need to have a whole heading. Okay? Proper heading for any assignment you turn in is as follows. In the top right corner of the page in this format, at the top, on the top run, you're going to put your name, your first name and your last name. Next, underneath that, you're going to put your class and the period. Okay? So in our example here, I've got Molly McGuire is in Texas history in 4th period. And then finally underneath that, you'll put the date. Okay, there may be some things that you're assigned or for you to turn in that don't have a space to do it just like that. There may be some blanks that are already pre-filled in for you to just fill in where it has it. That's fine. But if it is a sheet of paper that does not have any predetermined spots for you to put that information, you will always put it in the top right corner in this format. Will not accept it. It may be a collegiate level exposition, a paper that just brings a tear to my eye when I read it, but I'm not going to accept it for a grade unless you put the heading on. Okay? A social contract. Okay, for those at home, we'll figure out a way to get this done as well. But for those in class, what is a social contract? Social contract is a document that governs how we interact with each other. It governs how we speak to each other, how we act toward each other, okay, how we behave when we're around each other. Okay, a big question that I want to end for today. Okay, for those at home, I'm going to have a separate little assignment that kind of helps fill in the blanks on this. But who are you? Who are you? I mean, you know who you are, but does anyone else? Because we all put on a mask, quote unquote, in public, and especially while we're in school. All of us do it. I mean, to some degree, adults and teachers do it as well. Okay, there's different sides of our personalities that we don't necessarily show everyone all the time. Okay, but why do you think that we do things like this? Okay, why do you think that we put on a show? Why do we pretend sometimes to perhaps be something that we're not? Okay. And so I just want to leave you with this little saying is like to see someone and to truly hear someone that can make all the difference in the world. Okay? A lot of times in life, it can get kind of lonely. We think we're the only ones. Maybe you think that there's nobody nobody in your classes or nobody you know that, is into a particular thing. It may be some type of anime or K-pop or something or whatever. Okay. But everybody's got stuff that they have, things that they're into, they're interested in, they get excited about. More often than not, there are people around you that are into the same things that you didn't even know. You have that in common. There is so much more between us that we have in common than divides us. There's so much more that unites us than what divides us. Okay. And so if you see someone, if you feel like someone sees you, that they know who you are, then that's a good feeling. And so it's good to extend that to other people as well. Okay. To extend that consideration and that respect to your classmates.